Today we're going to practice solving different types of equations. We're going to do a few in this video, and then I'm going to give you time to practice on your own. The first thing I'd like you to do is to solve this equation. You'll notice that you may solve it by factoring. It has 4 terms, and you would factor it by grouping. Press pause on your video, and when you're ready to see the answer, press play. You can see that I solved this using a 2 by 2 grouping. I factored x squared out of the first 2 terms and -1 out of the second 2 terms. And then when I factored to this point, I noticed that x squared minus 1 was not prime, so I continued to factor. And then I set each factor equal to 0, and I got x equals -2, 1, and -1. And I wrote my solution in set notation, since that is what my instructions said to do. So be sure that you're looking at the instructions. Next, I'd like you to solve this equation. Notice I did not tell you to write it in set notation, so you may do either. Press pause when you're ready to see the answer. Press play. Again, it's a 2 by 2 grouping, except that when I grouped, I found x squared plus 4 was prime. So then again, I set each of my factors equal to 0. I got x equals -1, and when I solved for x here, I got plus or minus 2i. Here's another type of equation. I have a quantity raised to the 2/3 power. I would like you to rewrite it using radical notation, remembering how to write a radical when you have a fractional exponent. Press pause when you're ready for the answer. Press play again. So remember, the denominator is the index on your radical. The numerator is the exponent on your radicand. So we are going to solve this equation using as if it's a radical equation. So to do that, I'm going to close the shade for a minute. We are going to cube both sides of our equation to get rid of the radical. That brings me to here. And then we have to take the square root of both sides. And remember that when you take the square root of both sides of an equation, you get positive or negative. That's the same as if you took any even root of both sides of an equation. You get positive or negative. Then I subtracted 3 from both sides, and then I simplified. So x is equal to -11 or 5. Now notice I cubed both sides of my equation, so I need to check to make sure there are no extraneous solutions. So I plug in -11 for x, I find that it's 4. I plug in 5 for x, I find that also gives me 4. So since that satisfies my equation, both of those solutions work. Now, I want to think about how to solve this without changing it to radicals. When you have a fractional exponent, you may raise it to a power to eliminate that exponent because we're multiplying a power to a power. So 2/3 to the 3/2 power changes to the first power because 2/3 times 3/2 is 1. The thing you have to be careful about is this part. When you have a 2 in the denominator, it is like taking the square root of both sides of an equation, and then you have to remember that you get a positive or a negative. From there, you solve it just the same way as we did before, and then again you check. Next, I'd like you to check online to see what your assignment is. Have a great weekend.